Hello, friends. How I love this exciting feeling when you look out the airplane window, and there you can already see the endless Marmara Sea with the Prince's Islands. An aluminum tube with wings comes in for landing, and a city that unites two continents floats below, a place where East and West meet, and where history and modernity are intertwined. Welcome to Istanbul. I had a free day in Istanbul, and I decided to make a video from the category of what to see in Istanbul in one day. If you are going on a short trip and you have very little free time, or for example you have a very long layover and you are thinking about where to while away the time in Istanbul, then this video is for you. I will try to show you a route that is really possible to walk in one day without rushing, and at the same time cover some of the important sites, and not fall from fatigue at the end of the walk. If you are in Istanbul for the first time, feel free to go to Sultan Ahmet Square. After 6 years, restoration was completed in the Blue Mosque finally, and the scaffolding was removed, and the second floor was opened in Hagia Sophia this year. So even experienced tourists will look at these popular attractions from a completely different angle. Well, in the end, in this video we will walk together through the iconic places and plunge into the atmosphere of this beautiful city. Let's explore Istanbul. We are heading to the first landmark on our way, the Sultan Ahmet Mosque, also known as the Blue Mosque. This is a truly majestic architectural marvel located in the heart of Istanbul on the Sultan Ahmet Square. Built at the beginning of the 17th century by order of the Ottoman Sultan Ahmet I, the mosque has become not just a religious place but also one of the symbols of Islamic culture and Ottoman architectural art. The Sultan who started the construction was a young ruler who sought to leave behind a grandiose heritage comparable to the achievements of previous sultans. At the beginning of the reign of Ahmet I, the Ottoman Empire fought 2 wars simultaneously, with Austria and Iran. Defeats and other events led to the fact that the authority of the Ottoman Empire was undermined, and the Sultan decided to build a mosque and thus appease Allah. In addition, the Turkish sultans have not built a single new mosque for 40 years. Ahmet's predecessors paid for the construction of mosques with what was get during the wars. But since Ahmet Fakir did not win any significant wars, he had to use money from his treasury. Ahmet Fakir wanted his mosque to surpass in beauty even the Hagia Sophia, which is located just opposite. To do this, he entrusted the project to the talented architect Sedefkar Mehmet Aga, who was a student and chief assistant of architect Sinan, and who decided to surpass his teacher. The architect, inspired by the traditions and achievements of Ottoman architecture, created a magnificent mosque with 6 minarets, which at that time was an innovation for mosques and caused a scandal. The greatest shrine of the Islamic world, the Masjid al-Haram Mosque in Mecca, has now equaled the number of minarets with the Sultan Ahmet Mosque. This has been recognized as sacrilege. To avoid disputes, it was decided to add another minaret to the Masjid al-Haram Mosque, the construction of which was financed by Sultan Ahmet, so that it would again surpass all existing mosques. Inside, the mosque impresses with the elegance of its decorative elements. Thousands of handmade blue Iznik ceramic tiles adorn the walls and domes, hence the second name of the mosque, the Blue Mosque. These tiles are made with images of flowers, vines, and abstract patterns, creating a unique calm atmosphere of harmony. One of the striking elements of the mosque is the mihrab, a prayer niche that is carved from a single piece of marble. There is a black stone on it, brought from Mecca. Next to the mihrab is the minbar, the imam's place for preaching. The interior of the mosque reflects the achievements of Islamic art, combining traditions and innovative approaches. Sultan Ahmet Mosque is still one of the main mosques in Istanbul and Turkey, where prayers are held daily. And at the same time, it is open to tourists from all over the world. The only thing is to specify the time of visit, which depends on the time of prayer and may change throughout the year. The entrance to the mosque is free, After the restoration is completed, there are usually no queues, and I definitely recommend visiting. We leave the Sultan Ahmet Mosque and find ourselves at the obelisks preserved from the ancient Byzantine Hippodrome, and this is the Obelisk of Constantine. This column, erected in honor of Emperor Constantine VII, decorated the Hippodrome and was a monument to the power of the Byzantine emperors. This is the snake column. This bronze monument was brought from Delphi and symbolizes the victory of the Greeks over the Persians at the Battle of Plataea. This is an Egyptian obelisk. It was brought from Egypt by Emperor Theodosius I in the 4th century. It is considered one of the oldest attractions in Istanbul. We pass the obelisks and find ourselves at the German fountain. The fountain was made in Germany and disassembled, brought and installed on the square. It was given to the Ottoman Empire by Kaiser Wilhelm II during his visit in 1898. This elegant fountain in the Neo-Byzantine style, in the form of an octagon, with its arches and golden mosaics inside, is a symbol of diplomatic relations between the Ottoman Empire and the German Empire at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries. And behind the fountain is the Turbe, the tomb of Sultan Ahmet. This mausoleum was built after the death of Sultan Ahmet I, who died at the age of 27. Sultan Ahmet's tomb was designed by the same architect Sedefkar Mehmet Aga, who was responsible for the construction of the Blue Mosque. The tomb is not only of the Sultan himself, but also of his family members, including his wife Kesem Sultan, one of the most influential women in the history of the Ottoman Empire, and sons. Some of them were also sultans. The tombstones on which the turban is located belong to the sultans or their sons. The graves of women are without a headdress. Small tombstones belong to children. Someone died due to natural causes, and someone was killed. In the Ottoman Empire, the law of Fatih, or the law of fratricide, was in force. This law allowed the heirs of the Ottoman throne, who became sultans, to kill the other contenders, even if they were still children. From one point of view, fratricide saved the Ottoman Empire from civil wars after the death of the sultans and helped preserve the integrity of the empire and thousands of lives, unlike the Turkish states that existed before it. On the other hand, it is claimed that the law provoked wars and rebellions of the sons of the sultans during the lifetime of the fathers. In situations where the sultan's sons saw that their fate was sealed, the fight for power was a vital issue for them. The decision to fratricide was often not easy, and some sultans even looked for ways to avoid the deaths of their brothers, thus putting their lives in danger. And in opposite, some sultans were known for their cruelty. In the end, the Fatih law was abolished, and subsequently the eldest son became sultan. From the perspective of our time, of course, all this is ultra-cruel and terrible, but such is the history and realities of those times. We are heading to the next attraction, the Basilica Cistern. The Basilica Cistern is one of the most mysterious and amazing structures of ancient Constantinople. This underground reservoir was built in the 6th century under the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I and served as an important part of the city's water supply system. One of the largest and best preserved ancient underground reservoirs of Constantinople, which bears some resemblance to the palace complex. The cistern, located across the street from Hagia Sophia, is a huge underground room measuring 145 by 65 meters, capable of holding about 80,000 cubic meters of water. This reservoir was built to provide fresh water to the inhabitants of Constantinople in case of drought or siege. Water was supplied to the cistern via aqueducts from reservoirs located 19 kilometers from the city. The main feature of the Basilica Cistern is its architecture. Inside the structure there are 336 massive marble columns, each 8 meters high, which support brick vaults. The columns of the cistern are made in different styles, which indicates that many of them were taken from old ruined temples and other buildings of the ancient era. Some of them are decorated with carved patterns and ornaments. However, the most famous and mysterious detail of the cistern is 2 columns with images of the head of the Medusa, located far from the entrance of the reservoir wall. These Medusa heads lie at the base of the columns, one turned sideways and the other upside down. Historians still cannot say with certainty why they were installed in this way. Perhaps this was done in order to neutralize the mythical power of the Medusa, which, according to ancient Greek legends, could turn people into stone with its gaze. The cistern was actively used before the Ottomans captured Constantinople. Subsequently, the reservoir was abandoned and heavily polluted, since the Ottomans preferred to use other water sources such as fountains and cisterns on the surface. But repairs of cistern were carried out twice. In 1723, under Ahmed III, and in the 19th century under Abdulhamid II. And only in 1987, a museum was opened in the cleaned cistern. Currently, the Basilica Cistern is one of the most popular tourist attractions in Istanbul. By the play of light and sound atmosphere, a mystical feeling is created inside. The water, which is still present in the cistern, reflects the columns and arches, giving the whole space a special magical atmosphere. Interesting and sometimes frightening sculptures only complement it. The Basilica Cistern is not just a monument to Byzantine engineering, but also a unique place where history, mythology, and architecture are intertwined into one. A visit here is like a journey into the past, where you can feel the spirit of ancient Constantinople and its greatness. I would definitely recommend visiting. We are moving with you to the world-famous Istanbul Mosque Hagia Sophia. First of all, it is worth saying that since this year, the entrance to Hagia Sophia for tourists has become paid, and currently amounts to 25 euros. The main entrance is now only for people coming to the mosque for prayer. They will be able to go to the first floor of Hagia Sophia for free, and for tourists, there is now a separate entrance leading to the second floor. Tickets are sold at the box office right at the entrance. The line at the box office also moves quite quickly. I stood here for no more than 15 minutes. The Hagia Sophia is one of the greatest architectural achievements in human history. This building embodies the centuries-old history and spiritual heritage of both the Christian and Islamic worlds, changing religious roles from its foundation in the 6th century to the present day. The construction of the cathedral began in 532 by order of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I on the site of a previous burnt-down temple. Hagia Sophia, as we know it, is the third temple on this site. Fragments of the previous Basilica of Theodosius, which, by the way, burned down during the Nika riots, are exhibited in the courtyard. The emperor wanted to create a temple that would become a symbol of the greatness of his reign and the power of the Byzantine Empire. But there is also an opinion that the temple was built on a vow to atone for the murder of 30,000 people during the suppression of one of the largest uprisings in the history of the Byzantine Empire by imperial troops. For the construction of the temple, the emperor invited two of the best architects of that time, Isidore of Miletus and Anthemius of Tralles. The cathedral was built for only 5 years, which in itself is surprising for such a large-scale construction. In 537, its solemn consecration took place, and the cathedral immediately became the main church of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. The architecture of St. Sophia is a unique symbiosis of engineering genius and spiritual greatness. The main element of the cathedral is its huge dome, which rises at a height of more than 55 meters. At that time, it was an unprecedented engineering achievement. The dome consists of 40 radial arches. 40 arched windows are cut in the lower parts of the arch gaps, which creates a feeling of a light belt in the lower part of the dome, and it seems as if the dome is floating in the air. The interior of the cathedral was amazing. The walls were decorated with mosaics of gold, silver, glass, and precious stones depicting Christian subjects, from Jesus Christ and the Mother of God to the apostles and emperors. Marble columns brought from different parts of the empire, including Ephesus, added grandeur and sophistication. The unprecedented and unheard-of splendor of the temple amazed the popular imagination to such an extent that there were legends about the direct participation of heavenly forces in its construction. The Byzantines considered this temple a symbol of the heavenly Jerusalem on earth. The construction of the cathedral absorbed 3 annual revenues of the Byzantine Empire. Solomon, I have surpassed you. These words were uttered, according to legend, by Justinian, entering the cathedral and referring to the Jerusalem temple. For over 1,000 years, St. Sophia has been revered as one of the most sacred Christian churches, as well as the center of orthodoxy. However, in 1453, when the Ottoman Empire led by Sultan Mehmet II captured Constantinople, the cathedral was turned into a mosque. Islamic elements were added inside the cathedral, a mihrab, a minbar, and 4 minarets that were built around the building. Thus, St. Sophia was to become a symbol of the Islamic faith while maintaining its architectural integrity and grandeur. For several centuries, Hagia Sophia remained one of the main mosques of the Ottoman Empire. In 1935, already in the era of the Turkish Republic, by decree of the first president of the country, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, Hagia Sophia was turned into a museum. This decision was a step towards preserving the cultural heritage that unites different eras and religions. However, in 2020, the cathedral became a mosque again by decision of the Turkish government. Despite this, Hagia Sophia remains one of the main symbols of Istanbul and attracts many visitors, admiring them with its architectural power and multi-layered history. The main feature of the second floor is the magnificent Byzantine mosaics depicting Christian scenes and figures, which are considered one of the best examples of sacred art of the Middle Ages. Here, for example, is a Mary, Christ the Child, Komnenos II, Empress Irene mosaic. The infant Jesus Christ blesses with his right hand and holds a scroll in his left. Next to it is a mosaic of Jesus Christ, Emperor Constantine and Zoya. In the mosaic, Emperor Constantine and Empress Zoya present gifts for Saint Sophia. Emperor Constantine presents a bag of gold. Empress Zoya presents a scroll symbolizing the donations she made to the church. There is a Desis mosaic depicting Jesus Christ with the Virgin Mary and John the Baptist. Only the upper parts of the figures have been preserved from the original composition. The images of Jesus Christ, the Virgin Mary, and John the Baptist evoke associations with the works of the 12th century. They differ in a deeply individual interpretation. The sails of the cathedral, on which the dome rests, depict 4 unequal figures of seraphim angels. The angels depicted on the eastern sails are made of mosaics, whereas the angels on the western sails were damaged before 1453 and were updated as frescoes. During the Ottoman Empire, the faces of angels depicted on sails were covered with metal lids in the shape of stars. In 2009, during the reconstruction, the mosaics were opened. In my opinion, all the grandeur and scale of Hagia Sophia opens from the first floor. I visited the first floor when it was still open to everyone. But the second floor provides a unique experience for visitors, as it allows them to see mosaics and architectural details much closer than from the first floor. For example, from the side, you can look at the mosaic image of the Virgin Mary with the infant Jesus Christ, which is covered with a cloth and is not visible from below. Personally, I am very glad that the second floor has been opened to the public, and you and I have the opportunity to touch the centuries-old history of this place. We are going to the exit, and from the courtyard we will go into the south lobby to look at the mosaic depicting the emperors Constantine and Justinian in front of the Mary. It depicts the Mother of God on the throne with the Christ the Child on her knees, and on the sides are the emperors Constantine, on the right, bringing the city of Constantinople as a gift, and Justinian, on the left, bringing the Cathedral of Saint Sophia to the Mother of God. The brightly painted ceiling of the lobby deserves special attention. The kaleidoscope of patterns is amazing, despite the fact that it already needs restoration, in my opinion. If you find yourself in Istanbul, I strongly recommend taking a look at the second floor of Hagia Sophia. Do not spare money for a ticket. This is the most unique experience and impressions. In similar videos with the topic What to See in Istanbul in one day, people often indicate the Topkapi Palace, but I would not advise going there if you have limited time. You need to allocate a whole day for the Topkapi. It's just a huge palace complex with a bunch of halls and exhibits. I spent 8 hours in the palace, I was tired, and I didn't watch it all. Therefore, I do not include the Topkapi Palace in this route. There will be a separate video about it. Subscribe to not miss it. Instead, we will go with you to Gulhane Park, which is located behind Hagia Sophia. Park is one of the key venues for the annual Tulip Festival in Istanbul. I was lucky enough to visit the park in April, when it turns into a colorful sea of tulips of all shades and shapes. Tulips occupy an important place in Turkish culture, especially in Ottoman history, and every year thousands of these flowers are planted in the park, creating picturesque floral carpets that can be admired while walking. Tulips are usually associated with Holland, but few people know that tulips originate from the Asian Pamir Mountains, from where the nomadic Turks brought them to the Anatolian region of Turkey. And from here, the Ottomans began to trade them around the world, including to Holland in the 15th century. Tulips are closely related to Turkish culture. If you pay attention, old and new mosques are decorated with tulips on the inner tiles. The tulip can be found in traditional paintings, embroidery, patterns of Turkish carpets, in the design of books. Poems are dedicated to this flower, and a whole historical period in the Ottoman Empire was called the Age of Tulips. In 1912, by order of the authorities, the park was opened to the general public, becoming the first public park in Istanbul. Since then, it has remained a popular place for walking and recreation for both locals and tourists. If you are in Istanbul in April, then Gulhane Park is a must-visit. Admission is free. We are moving towards the Bosphorus, and on the way we will look into the legendary confectionery Hafiz Mustafa. Hafiz Mustafa pastry shops are always crowded. I recommend that you look here at least for the atmosphere and taste the classics of Turkish sweets. You can't do without treats from the sellers. The history of this confectionery chain begins in 1864, when Mustafa Effendi opened his first shop in the Sirkeci district, in the historical part of Istanbul. Since then, the confectionery has been famous for its traditional Turkish sweets, such as baklava, lokum, and other desserts prepared according to classic recipes. You and I will go further along the route and go out to the Bosphorus, which, in my opinion, is a must-see if you happen to be in Istanbul. And the best way to do this is, of course, to take a ferry ride. For me, a ferry ride from Eminönü Pier to Uskudar is already a kind of ritual that I adhere to every time I find myself in Istanbul. Ferry docks at the Uskudar Embankment, another area of Istanbul on the Asian side of the city, famous for its ancient mosques, of which several can be seen from the pier alone. The area is known for its rich history and preserved cultural and historical monuments. Once in this area, I advise you to walk along the embankment to the Maiden's Tower, another of the symbols of the city. You can only get to it by boat or ferry. The tower is located on a tiny island 200 meters from the Uskudar embankment. After 2 years of restoration, the Maiden's Tower was reopened to the public last year. So, if you are on time, I recommend visiting it. But even if you did not have time to visit the Maiden's Tower, you can admire it from the shore and enjoy the atmosphere of the embankment. On the embankment, you can meet street musicians performing folk melodies and songs on traditional Turkish instruments. Sometimes you can stumble upon young people dancing the traditional Turkish halay dance to the rhythmic sounds of drums and zurnas. Fishermen on the Uskudar are already a part of the daily life of this area. Hundreds of fishing rods twitching in the air create a special atmosphere of this area. Fishing has already become a kind of social event on the Bosphorus Berg, bringing together people of different ages. The video from Istanbul, of course, can't be without cats. If there are fishtails somewhere, then there will definitely be cattails nearby. Fishermen mainly catch small European anchovy fish, which also falls to cats, who patiently wait, watching the movement of fishing rods and buckets of fish. For fishermen, feeding local cats is already a usual thing, and many of them are happy to share their catch with cats. If you liked the route and the video in general, do not forget about likes, comments, and especially about subscribing. This is very important for such a small channel like mine, and gives me a boost of motivation to shoot new videos for you. I will make a separate video about the Topkapi Palace, so subscribe to not miss it. Also, I invite you to watch other videos on the channel. The links will now appear on the screen. Thank you so much for your attention, and see you soon on your new travels.